Hello everybody, I've been using AI to create photographic images just like German artist Boris Eldagsen, and today I'm going to talk about what this technology means for photography and photographers. So, Mr. Eldagsen, Herr Eldagsen I should say, Eldagsen, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, Boris Eldagsen won the Sony Photographic Awards with his AI image. It had never been anywhere near a camera, it had never seen a lens, it was purely and simply created by artificial intelligence, and that is a real feat. Not only that, but a bigger feat is that he managed to actually win this rather prestigious award with this technology, and that's a really astonishing thing. Now, he did admit that the image was created by AI and he returned the prize, so it was all legitimate, and Herr Eldagsen did it because he said he wanted to provoke a debate about this emerging technology, and it really is emerging. It seems to me that we're on the cusp, right on the edge of a massive cultural revolution that's going to change not only the arts but a whole swathe of other things too. Lots and lots of industries, lots and lots of practices, lots and lots of areas of human life that previously could only be done by a human mind will probably not that far away be able to be done by these robots. So how good is this tech? Well, I gotta admit, I had varying results. Some of the images were just frankly awful, and in fairness, I might not have used as clear or the correct instruction. It's very important to get the instruction right when you're telling these AI bots what to actually do, and it might be that I need a bit of experience in doing that. I did do these fairly quickly, so I gave it, I think, 4 or 5 instructions to produce 4 or 5 different kinds of image. I've got to look at my notes to remember what they were because I can't remember this stuff. Oh yeah, one was an ink drawing of a cosmic woman. Now that was a fairly esoteric sort of subject matter to choose, but there was a purpose in me doing that. I wanted to see how it would deal with instructions like that, and it also might have had, if it had been any good, some use in another project that I'm working on at the moment for which I need an image, so that's why I asked it that particular question. That instruction was not particularly successful, as you can see from these images. They really, I don't think these cut the mustard at all. I also asked it to create an image of a woman holding the universe, and it's created these fairly generic shots, but really when you think what's going on here, which is that the machine, and it is just a machine, it's not intelligent at all, we'll talk about that in a little while, the machine is going through all of the possible similar images it can find on the internet, it's merging them, it's kind of squishing them all together and taking little elements from here and little elements from there and putting together a wholly new image from its, in quotation marks, research, because of course it's not actually genuine research that it's doing. Or maybe it is. Sabine Hossenfelder on her science channel would disagree. She says that she thinks AI is conscious to some small degree, but anyway, that's another story. So those were reasonably successful, if a little generic. Oh, this was quite interesting. I asked it to do a prize-winning street shot, prize-winning street photograph, and it came up with these images, some of which actually work rather well, I think. But again, they are a little bit generic, and you know, these are familiar images. Even if we've never seen these images before, they're completely original. They're not pilched or pilfered from anywhere. They are totally original creations, but they do have this air of familiarity with them, where you kind of feel that you know them, and that's because they are just collated from all of these similar images that the machine has found. So this tech, it seems to me, was always pretty much inevitable. It was always coming. We knew about it in the 80s in the collective unconscious, and it kind of leaked out in films like Terminator, films of that sort. And you can trace it even further back to robots that are featured in various movies over the years, and even to the automata of, I think it was 17th century France or 18th century France. So there's been a kind of an understanding in the collective unconscious that this was coming, and now it's here. So what, if anything, do we do about it? Many people, experts in the field, academics and industry people, many people are very comfortable with this tech and see no threat to anybody in it. Others are definitely worried, among them Elon Musk. I was listening to a BBC radio programme, I think it was in March, where a professor, I forget his name, but a noted academic, his very words were, look, we've all seen Terminator, we know where this ends. What do I think? Well, I honestly, I don't know. I don't know where this is going to lead. It may be that it ends up as fairly benign and it's just another tool, or it may be we're heading into something entirely uncharted, totally new, completely unpredictable. I also asked DALL-E to give me some images from a fashion shoot, and as you can see, it's done that. Some of the shots again are more successful than others, and it is again having trouble with faces, and I'm not really sure why that should be. That is quite odd. I mean, it gets all the other elements right. It must know, in inverted commas, that the faces of people generally in fashion shots don't look like that, but it's not been able to get the subtleties of faces quite right in some of the shots, and some do look rather over-processed as well. What else did we ask? A street photograph of a woman. Again, some of these images may be useful for another project I'm working on, so that's why I've asked these particular questions. And again, we get kind of partial success in some shots, better success in others. So really what stands out here is that it is having trouble with faces. I'm sure that will change as the software develops and learns. I believe there are neural networks involved in the software as well. In fact, there must be for it to learn anything. They're very generic. There's no real trace of originality in these shots, as you might expect, actually, given that they're created by a robot. So none of the shots stands out as very remarkable, but if, for example, you wanted some art for an office or some public place where really generic work is appropriate, because it does have a use, then I think it would probably do the trick. So as things stand, it's producing pretty generic results. But this tech is in its infancy, as they used to say about steam in the 19th century. And I probably need practice with prompts. But there is no doubt at all, certainly in my mind, that this is a very extraordinary technology that will develop very, very rapidly. So stand by to see where it goes. It really is anybody's guess. Now, I do think it's important to mention at this point that AI, despite its name of artificial intelligence, is not intelligent at all. It is just a machine. It's a very, very fast mechanism working electronically. If you had enough springs and gears and levers and you were clever enough to put them together in the right way, you could, in theory, achieve the same result. So this is a mechanism. There's nothing intelligent about it, although Sabina Hossenfelder may disagree with that. But it does a very good impression of being intelligent, and it reminds me of Alan Turing's dictum that if a machine or computer appears to be conscious, then it is. Personally, I don't buy that. I've never really bought that. For me, there's either something going on in the interior or there isn't, and if it's just a mechanism, it's just a mechanism. So I never really got Turing's view on that. I never really got that point. But that aside, this tech does a very, very good impression of being intelligent, and that's what counts. It can write articles, it can write stories, it can write code for computers, it can take photographs, and it can make art, it can do graphic design. This thing can even apply for jobs. It can get around the bot security on applications and websites. It can even deceive and tell lies. Now, that's extraordinary and a little bit frightening, a little bit sinister, I think, because if it's telling lies, it's acting independently, and who knows where that might go. The tech's only in its first stages, there is no doubt about that, and it will become much more powerful very quickly. And if quantum computers ever become a thing, if they become a commonplace consumer item, then my gosh, it will quickly become far more able even than that. And is that another scary prospect? Oh heck. So is it too much of a stretch of the imagination to say that this thing, this AI thing, is best used as a tool? That there's no danger in it, there's no harm in it, it's just a tool, just like any other tool, and it can inspire, it can enhance creativity, it can aid planning, and it can give us a place to start. It's actually quite good for generating photographic ideas and launching off, jumping off points for visual ideas. It's actually quite useful in that way. Is it crazy to consider it as part of the creative process? Well, I don't think it is. New tools come along, and remember that new forms have always been looked down upon, just as cinema was in its early days, just as television was, just as photography was. But this thing, I think, is in a wholly different league. As Sam Jackson says in Pulp Fiction, it ain't even the same sport. So we'll just have to see where it goes. It's far more powerful, it's fundamentally and essentially different, or so it seems to me. This is a whole different paradigm. It's going to have impact on employment. It may take over entire industries at certain levels. Much of mass media output, for example, you can imagine might eventually become the product of AI. And I've even heard the story, in the 80s I heard this story of a guy who bought up the rights to all the old movie actors like W.C. Fields and Laurel and Hardy and people like that, so he could make computer movies with them when the tech became available, when it developed to that point. And it's not difficult now to imagine a time where even films and TV shows and music are produced on computers. What I don't think this tech will ever be able to do is to replace the human ability to produce unique art that shows us something we haven't seen before, gives us an experience we haven't had before, something groundbreaking and extraordinary, that only really I think anyway, only a human artist could do. So I don't think it will replace those great advances. I don't think a robot, for example, could come up with a movie script like Pulp Fiction. That was a very original thing in its day. It had very striking features that other movies, or almost all other movies, didn't have. The narrative was different, the shooting style was different, it was a very relaxed acting style. So I don't think a computer will ever be able to produce something uniquely original with real creative spark and flair. But who knows? I might be wrong. As this tech develops, who knows where it will go? We will just have to wait and see. As for me, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for joining me once again. And if this is your first time here, thank you for joining me for your first time. And anyone who's made it this far, well done. You really do deserve at least a brass clock or maybe a nest of tables. So those are my thoughts on AI. Again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for joining me. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and ring the bell and do all those YouTubey type things that we love to do on YouTube. That would mean a lot. Thank you very, very much to subscribers for your support. Subscribers who are with us and have been with us from the beginning. Subscribers who've joined partway through. Subscribers who've joined and left again. Many, many thanks to everybody. Many, many thanks also go to patrons. Thank you sincerely for your support. I really, really appreciate it, and it makes this channel possible in its current form. I couldn't do on this channel what I do if I didn't have that support from patrons. So many, many thanks to all of you. But as for me, that is it for now. Thank you very, very much for watching. And if you're not doing anything too much next week at around this time, please do join me for a spot more Zenography. Cheerio all.